Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for the Demystifying Money podcast. I'm joined by my friend Leslie Robertson. She is the owner and founder of the Prime Personal Training Studio. She's also a health and fitness coach and speaker. And so we're going to talk today about health and wellness and a little bit about money and how we can either spend money later in life on healthcare or earlier when we're thinking about our health and wellness and fitness. So thank you so much, Leslie, for joining me today.
This episode of Demystifying Money with Misty Lynch is proudly sponsored by Soundview Financial Advisors. Visit www.soundviewfinancialadvisors.com to learn more.
Thank you. I'm really excited for this conversation. Thanks for having me.
Leslie, what made you, and as somebody, so you've been self-employed for quite a while. This has always been your area of expertise, correct? Yeah. So when you think about, what made you decide that this was the field that you really wanted to spend your career working in?
Well, it's funny because I first started out right out of university. I was actually a teacher. I was an elementary school phys ed teacher. So I knew I always wanted to be involved in a career where I was helping people be more active and fit and teaching them the importance of taking care of themselves. And then I found out early on that wasn't the career for me. And then somehow this career of personal training fell into my lap as I was actually getting started on my own health journey after leaving a career that was unfulfilling and getting really out of shape, which was crazy because I was a collegiate athlete as well. So I went from being in incredible shape at the peak of my health and fitness to jumping into a career that didn't really serve me. And then having to kind of find my way to, a better, just getting into a better place. So I actually hired a personal trainer at a gym that I ended up working at. And so my journey of getting, finding myself and getting out of this deep depression, fitness was the thing that helped me heal and overcome the struggles and to find out what I truly love to do. So getting back to being that athletic person that took care of myself then became a career. And then ever since then, I think it's over 15 years ago, I've been helping people transform their lives through health and fitness because that was a huge part of my journey that got me to a place where I'm feeling amazing. So it really came from my own struggles and hitting basically rock bottom mentally and physically to seek that support and then wanting to be that support for somebody else. So that's really where it started.
No, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned being in a career that didn't serve you. And a lot of people I talk to, maybe they went to school, maybe they have an expensive education, and then they decide that this isn't what they want to do. And that can be very difficult mentally to kind of connect the fact that, yes, no, this was the plan. Maybe I spent a lot of money to be trained to do this. Maybe I spent a lot of time, but it's not what I want to do. And that can be very difficult and can start to, cause certain, things like depression, anxiety, all of those fears about actually making those changes. So I know, and this is interesting, and I was actually at a grief workshop recently, and I was talking to the person, and they were like, "Oh, we need to move around, we need to dance, we need to do certain to actually get some of these feelings out." And I was somebody who always played sports too.
Yeah.
And so I sometimes think about how a lot of people probably maybe they're not dancers or maybe they're, whatever that is. But a lot of us go from being very athletic or using, maybe very active to careers where we're not.
Yes.
And sometimes I feel like I started playing basketball again once a
Awesome.
week with a bunch of other moms because
I love it.
This is fun.
Right.
And this was how I always kind of managed stress before.
Yeah. Yes.
And so it's interesting that you say, that this is something that you kind of worked through your own, your own personal journey when it came to those feelings to get back to yourself. So
totally good for you.
When you started, when you started working with people, you were not. How old are your children now, Leslie?
So they just turned 4 and 7. I have two boys. Yeah.
So when you started as a trainer, you were not a mom, but you work with a lot of moms now. Tell me, how did your feelings change and your focus shift when you actually experienced motherhood and all of those changes that come along with it?
Oh my God. So everything I used to do, like basically had to throw it out the window. And I kept trying. I'm like, just like eat less and exercise more. Like that's what happened. Like that's what worked in the past. I've had many evolutions of my weight loss journey, but you have kids like, okay, you don't have the time, you're exhausted, you don't have the capacity to do all the things you did before. So I had to figure out how to do, take care of myself, but with so much less time and a lot less energy. And then I'm not only taking care of myself, I'm taking care of, my husband, my kids. So but in the beginning, when I wasn't doing it, and I saw and felt how awful I felt, and I had less patience, I just didn't feel good about it. So I'm like, I have to find a way to feel good again. So sure, I had 50 pounds to lose, but it wasn't even about losing weight. It was about how do I take better care of myself so I can then take better care of my children, but in a way that isn't taking me away from my family or making it hard for me to like take care of my clients. So I had to get really efficient and streamline the process and create systems in my life so that I wasn't more stressed and
Mhm.
having less time in my day. And then that's why I created the Happy Healthy Fit Mom method specifically for moms who are overwhelmed, stressed, and exhausted and want to feel better, but teaching them a way to create habits that are sustainable and that they actually enjoy so they can get results and then keep it. So it's not some extreme, 90-day,
Mhm.
you know, extreme program. It's more like how do we, create systems and habits that you can stick to for the rest of your life. So for me, it was just shifting from all or nothing, like follow the meal plan perfectly, work out 5 days a week, take all the supplements, do all the yoga and meditation, and just how do we do bits and pieces of that so that we can still optimize our health, but still have time for our family and to have fun as well.
Mhm.
So that's what really shifted for me.
I think there's a lot of similarities between personal finance, budgeting, things like that. What like
Mhm.
being mindful with your money and then being mindful with your health too. Because you're
Yeah.
right, you mentioned the all or nothing thought process where I don't have time to work out 5 days a week, or I don't have $1,000 a week to invest. I don't have this,
No.
so I'll do nothing.
Yeah.
And nothing, even if it's keeping us unhappy and it's making us miserable and it's not making us,
Yeah.
we're not making any progress, it's familiar.
Yes.
So a
Or
lot of times we don't want to commit to something because we think, you know what, if I can't do it to this level,
yeah.
what's the point? And so I
Yes.
think that is something that slowly will chip away at your health. It'll chip away at your finances too. If you don't start, then you have to do a lot more
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
later.
right?
So
Yes.
what are some of those things? When you start working with somebody, say you're introducing them to your method and there's some resistance because
Mm.
they don't know if it's going to work
Yeah.
because nothing's worked or
Yeah.
they're so busy. What are some of the mindset shifts and also some of the actions, the small actions that can really start to add up and lead to some progress?
Mhm. Awesome question. So first thing I'll do, and I'm sure like you being a life coach as well, you know this too. So getting really clear on their why and asking that question so many times till we can no longer ask why. So it's like, okay, so why are you here? Well, I want to lose 15 pounds. Okay, so why? Oh, because I want to fit in my clothes. Okay, well, why is that important to you? Well, because I'll feel better. And then why is that like, and ultimately we at the end of it when we ask why, like, sometimes 10 times, like I
Mhm.
want to feel happier, right? I want to feel proud. I want to feel confident. So once we can get to the deep rooted why, then on those days, you're like, I don't want to work out. Like, I don't want to. It's like, so then you're taking away from your goal of, this feeling of, I want to feel happy. So it's a feeling we're chasing.
Mhm.
I try and get people to chase a feeling, not a weight or a size. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
once we focus on that, it's like, so you're getting further away from this feeling of, I want to feel happy, proud, and confident because I'm choosing comfort or like these, immediate gratification. It's hard. It's challenging. So, and the four kind of pillars that I help people with. So number one is sleep, especially as moms. And there are periods of motherhood where you're not sleeping and
Yes.
sickness and sleep regressions and nightmares and all that sort of thing. But ultimately, when your kids go to bed, it's pretty soon time for you to go to bed. So getting moms off their phones and into their beds, preferably around 10 o'clock, and then prioritizing that sleep. So making sure they're getting good quality sleep. Because if you're not sleeping, you're going to have no energy, you're going to make bad choices with your food and all the excuses. So sleep's a big one. Stress is another big one for moms. So helping them, find ways to reduce their stress. And it's not just like work stress, family stress, but like stress on the body with, the poor food that they're eating or sitting all day. So doing things to help them manage and reduce the stress in their body. Because if we're too highly stressed, we don't make good decisions, right? And it's harder to have the energy when our body's fighting stress all day to do the things we need to do. And then, of course, movement's a big one and being really intentional about our movement. So not just, how many days are you going to the gym, but what are you doing outside of those sessions? Are we getting walks in? Are we being active with the family? Are we standing when we could be sitting? Are we taking our meetings for walks instead of, just sitting? So movement. And I know not everyone loves cleaning their house, but like those sort of things add
Mhm.
up too. Just getting that non-exercise activity. How can we get ourselves moving? So instead of, sure, you sit 8 hours a day, you do your 30-minute workout, but there's ways of spending less time sitting that's not just going to the gym. And then the last thing is nourishment. So nutrition and water. So like really, really making drinking water a priority over coffee,
Mhm.
and making sure that they're making meal prep and planning a priority, and then teaching the importance of creating balanced meals. And I'm not a huge fan of extreme diets, tracking calories, any of that sort of thing. I like to help women just have a better understanding of the foods that make them feel good and how to create balanced meals so that they're feeling satisfied throughout the day. And it also helps progress them towards their fat loss or performance goals as well. So those four pillars, sleep, stress, movement, and nutrition are four that I
Mhm.
start with. But what I'll do, because it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a huge overhaul in my life. We pick like one or two things. So it could be, I'm going to work on breakfast. A lot of women skip breakfast. And I'm like, are you eating breakfast? Okay, now what? Toast and peanut butter is not breakfast.
Mhm.
Like, how do we beef it up to be more satiating? So put an egg on there. Maybe we're going to have a smoothie on the side. So pick one meal.
Mhm.
And then movement, maybe we're getting a 15-minute walk every day. Maybe that's where we're starting. And then the sleep, I'm like, okay, we have to put the phone away an hour before bed and try and get you to sleep maybe 30 minutes earlier. So, and again, I let them choose, but if they're like, just tell me what to do, that's where I would start. Start with breakfast, steps, and sleep.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned the phone, and I think that is so it's such a bad
Ooh,
thing to have next to your bed, to be the first thing that you look at in the morning and the thing that you're looking at night. And it
yes.
was I remember in one of the episodes of Heartbroke that I filmed, it was actually one of the dads that I was talking to, and I he had mentioned how he's busy and stressed, and he was kind of spending a little bit more on the takeout, maybe, and he felt he deserved it, he
Yeah.
wanted the convenience. And then he mentioned how he will stay up very late. And I was like, oh, have you ever heard? It's like, of a revenge bedtime.
Oh,
Basically,
yeah.
you're kind of rebelling against all of these things that are demanding your attention all day long. And you're going to bed later and later, which is really hurting you as far as like
Ah,
handling everything that's
yes.
going on.
Yes.
And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, yeah, this isn't just for moms. This is like a real, and
All
all of
parents.
the things that were impacted. So like you mentioned, a few changes, one
Hmm.
meal focusing on
Yeah.
one walker movement or the
Yeah.
bedtime stuff.
Yeah.
And we're very much a lot of us just have our habits. And I see this with people's budget too.
Mm,
But even though like the groceries are costing more, or
yeah.
the
Yeah.
takeout is costing more,
Oh my
it's
gosh.
what
Yeah.
we do, and we don't necessarily think about how much we're spending on it. Or, well, I just always buy this, or I always shop at this store.
Uh,
And why do I feel like I have no money? And usually it's because they're really not paying attention to like what they're buying, what they're using out of
yeah.
what they're buying, and
Yes, it's so true.
what they're spending on takeout or delivery or convenience. And
Yes.
it's getting so expensive,
It is. It's
so
scary,
many
isn't it?
ways. But
Yeah.
a lot of times people are like, oh, meal prepping, meal planning sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. And there are ways to make it a lot of work and there are ways to make it simple, which is the way
Hmm.
that I teach with meal
Okay.
prep. So I'm not a big recipe person, to be honest. Maybe like once I'm like, ooh, this looks like a good, but I don't, like you make a meal and like you get tired of it in a few
Hmm.
days or maybe not everybody in the family likes it. So What I do and encourage my clients to do is twice a week, because usually Sunday or Monday meal prep and we're good, and then by Thursday, Friday, the fridge is empty and we're
You
like, oh
don't
my
want it
God,
anymore.
right? So
Yep.
I'm like, so we're gonna do like a midweek meal prep. So
Okay.
Wednesday or Thursday, we go back to the grocery store and we get because a lot of reasons why people struggle on weight loss or health journey is because their weekends are crap, right? Because like, oh, I'm out of food, I will just order in, or not be so intentional about our eating. So I always get people to do meal prep, and then it's not as much that you're making, and we're not making meals and putting them in all these containers. Some people love that. I
Hmm.
don't love that. But I'm like, here's my protein container. So here's like, chicken wings, chicken drumsticks. I've got some meatballs made. And then I have like, I always have tons of roasted or chopped up vegetables. And I'll have some sort of carbs like rice or potatoes, or pasta ready to go. And then I'm literally for lunches and dinners just taking whatever. Like it's like buffet style meal prep,
Hmm.
right? And then when those run out, oh, protein's getting low. I got to go fill that up, because you never want to be stuck without protein,
Hmm.
because protein is the most important macronutrient that everyone should be eating. So that's how I simplify it, and it just becomes automatic. It's a habit. Okay, it's Wednesday. Look in the fridge. We're running out. Okay, I'm gonna go to the grocery store after work. Take a little bit of time, and then sometimes if you prep enough for the weekend, you don't have to do a whole Sunday meal prep. You can do a little bit of just a little bit, and then maybe do more on Monday. So that's what I do. It also saves you money,
Hmm.
saves you time, and it saves you like that decision making process. Like, what
Yeah.
are we gonna have for dinner? I still write out like, we're gonna have tacos this night, we're gonna have spaghetti this night. But for lunches, I find women also skip lunch. It's just good to have something in the fridge to just
Yeah.
throw on a plate and heat it up. But
Yeah, I think that because when I do skip meals, that's when I come home and I'm like, I don't want
oh,
that salad. I
you get
don't. I
ravenous.
want,
Yeah.
yeah, I want Five Guys or something like
Yeah.
that. So
Oh,
yeah, so
Five
I
Guys.
feel like that is definitely a good point. And, I think that a lot of us think, okay, we grocery shop once a week because this is what we do.
Mm,
We go once a
mm.
week. And then you're right. By the time we look in, like, we look at the cold cuts or anything that we got on
Yeah.
Friday that we bought on Sunday, we're like, I don't want that anymore.
And it's
Gone.
going bad.
Waiting. It's going
Yeah.
bad.
Yes, you're
So
wasting. You
it's
only
just,
get food for a few days at a time. That's so
yeah,
key.
I
Yeah.
think that's smart. And also, I tend to be somebody who's like, we were a leftover family,
Yeah.
like always eating leftovers, and so I
Gotcha.
hate them. It's very
Got it.
that I'll want to eat the same thing the next day, and I feel like it's like triggering for me to be
That's
like,
fair.
I don't
That's
need
fair.
to, I work too hard. But
Yes.
I love the thought of kind of planning a couple days.
Yeah.
Or
Plan a
planning
couple
out the
days.
week and then knowing you're going to go shopping, you're going to take a look at what's in the fridge because then if you change your mind or you have like another idea that pops in your head that you'd like to
Yeah.
do, you're not at least wasting all of that money
Yeah, right?
on the groceries that we're throwing
Yeah.
away or picking up the phone and or
Oh my
pulling up the
gosh.
DoorDash app and
Oh,
spending $70 to feed the family just
yeah.
like a cup
Yeah,
of fries.
right? Yeah.
No,
And
that's
another, and so yeah, and paying for delivery and all that too. But another thing that some of my clients love as well, there's also like some local like meal prep services that will prepare like individualized. And if you look at the price, it basically works out to be the same as groceries, but you don't have to think about what you're making. Just 2 minutes in the microwave, and that's another good option. There's a lot of those. I know at least in
That's
Ottawa, I'm
something.
sure
There's
where
one.
you are too.
That's something that we've been doing for my mother. My mother's recently
Oh,
widowed, and
right.
she doesn't like to cook. She used to love to
Oh,
cook, but she doesn't like to cook for one. And we were kind of concerned that she would not be eating.
oh,
So we started doing, some of the meal, the shipments, and
yeah.
they're very good.
Right? Delicious. And
So at
healthy.
least we know that there's like one meal where she's getting protein, vegetables, and
Yes.
things like that. But I do think for people who are, who live alone,
Mm,
who are single, like meal cooking and meal prep can be somewhat
yeah.
um daunting. It's a ton of work, but I like that, your idea of those kind of services. If you're looking at like what the product is
Yeah.
and the cost, it's just not buying a week's worth of groceries and those.
Yeah, you can, yeah, that you gotta decide. Are we doing
Really
one or the
planning
other?
ahead what you're going to do. It doesn't have to take a ton of time.
Yeah, yeah. But you do have to decide, like, am I cooking or am I ordering? Because you have to decide, like, either you're cooking, your husband's cooking, or someone else is. But if you can't make a decision, that's where things go south, right? So you really have to make a decision and own it and roll with that, because that's the one thing that holds people back. Oh, I don't want to cook, I don't have time. Okay, well, who else is going to cook then, right? So it's making that decision can be really helpful.
Yeah, no, I think those are great tips. And how about the fitness and the exercise? For some people,
Mm,
it might have maybe, maybe after children or maybe as they've gotten older, they're just not it just doesn't feel
yeah.
maybe they're very sore if they exercise.
Oh man.
Or maybe they're not, maybe they're not sleeping well because they can't get comfortable. So, and I
Hmm.
feel like, I'm 43 years old. Like sometimes things hurt that I'm like, what? Nothing. Why does this hurt?
Getting old. Yeah.
So what are some of the things that people can do? Maybe if they're
Mhm.
used to saying like, it's not exercise unless I'm spending 60 minutes sweating profusely and like exhausted. Like
Yeah.
what are some ways that people who are kind of again with the all or nothing thinking,
Mm.
what are some things that you recommend that they could do? Or if somebody has a limited amount of time or money, like
Yeah. Yeah.
what works?
Yeah, definitely strength training, prioritizing that. But the reason why people don't is because they don't know what they're doing, right? So, or they've been hurt, or they don't like their body, they have injuries, whatever. So, what I recommend if you can is to like set up an appointment with a trainer or like become like a YouTube guru and start doing research. But again, probably don't have time for that. So, I recommend strength training, either joining a class, getting a trainer for a few sessions
Mhm.
to learn how to do proper form and to also figure out what weight you can do. I find that most women underlift,
Mhm.
right? They just do what's called lifting weights, but they're not actually, you know, putting enough strain on their body. But you also want to make sure you're doing it not too much too soon. So I recommend, again, depending on like how much you're sleeping, how much time you have, at least 2 sessions a week is a great place to start.
Yeah.
And like 20 minutes of really intentional, focused movement is great. That's how I started when after having kids, the only time I had to work out was like 5:30 in the morning. I do my 20-minute little thing, and I got over this whole fact that I had to sweat to work out. As long as you're moving your body and taking the time to focus on it, that's good. And I like to encourage people to do total body workouts. So a couple lower body exercises, a couple upper body, some core, and of course, properly warming up and cooling down. Like YouTube has some great videos. I actually share some great YouTube videos, and I have an app I use with my clients to create workouts, and I'll even pop in some really good YouTube hit workouts too.
Mhm.
But when you're just starting out, total body, 6 exercises, 3 sets of 10 to 12,
Mhm.
working on like, the fundamental movement patterns like squats, lunges, pushes, pulls, core bracing, that sort of stuff. So that's all you need to start. And if you do more, great, but pick a number of times that you can work out that you can actually maintain consistently, like what's realistic, and that can change over time and week by week also. But aiming for 2 to 3 times a week of strength training is a great place to start.
Yeah, and I think with one thing I saw that people reported about like their lifestyles is that and people who are working, so mid-career
Mhm.
people, parents, all that,
Yes.
62% being burnt out all the time.
Mm.
So thinking of adding in something that is intense or a ton of effort or a ton of time is just going to be
Yeah.
difficult. But I like, what you're saying,
Yeah.
like 20 minutes here,
Yeah.
doing this there, or, not
Yeah.
have to break a sweat necessarily to have it be a success.
No,
Maybe
just
can
getting
help
it
with
done.
that
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
that because I feel like burnout is just
Oof.
it's common.
It is.
And usually, I think a lot of times improving your finances, improving your health, improving your sleep, all of these things will help, but it might
Oh my
require some
gosh, yeah.
effort.
Yes, it does. And it also requires support too, right? Like I know, a lot of your clients can do what they do without your support and same with me. They know what to do, but it's the following up and doing it and creating a system or a plan that's going to work for them and then making adjustments. And then when you do fall off track, having somebody like, no, it's okay, like get back onto it. So it's another thing, and I shared a reel on this today on Instagram. Like you have to plan for the setbacks and the
Mhm.
struggles, and you're not going to lose weight every week. You're going to eat like crap. You're going to miss workouts, but never miss twice, right? So the sooner you can get back to your habits, the better. Because if you start missing more than once or twice, then it becomes a habit. You're like the
Yeah.
type of person who continues
Mhm.
to skip your workouts and order out and all that sort of thing. So plan for the setbacks and then having that coach or support system or community is so imperative to help you stay on track and to bring you out of these, when you get off track, right?
Yeah.
So that's another huge piece.
A lot of people are looking for kind of like a quick fix. And so I saw another study that said in 2023, Americans spent $30.2 billion on supplements. What
Wow.
are some of those,
Believe it.
like, this is something to me that I feel like, and I've talked to, other people about, actual weight loss drugs, but even
Yes.
the supplements, the things like,
Yeah.
what do you think, when it comes to, that's a lot of money that people are spending.
Oh,
That could be a big part of people's budgets, and it could be, some of it could be useful, some of it could not be, but again, a lot of times too, we're getting things on auto shipment, auto payment, and we're just,
oh my
it's
gosh.
just
Yeah.
going out the door. But when it comes to things like supplements, aside from
Hmm.
just the food, are any of them necessarily worth it? Are there any things that you like or you feel like can actually help people who are struggling with maybe weight loss plateaus or energy or things like that,
Hmm.
that you're seeing in your field that you actually think are worth it, or some that you feel
Yeah.
like are not?
Yeah. So yeah, I would say the foundational, like if the foundational pillars are happening consistently, so like sleeping 7 to 9 hours, 7 to 9 hours, you're managing your stress pretty well, you're working out consistently, your food is like, 80 to 90% compliant, then we could start talking about bringing supplements in. But if you're like sleeping like crap, eating like crap, and sitting all the time, throwing supplements in there, kind of like throwing money down the
Mhm.
drain. But there are a lot of deficiencies we have,
Mhm.
especially as we get old. We're not old, like I'm 40 as well, but women going through menopause,
Yeah.
right? So there are some deficiencies that come up. And a lot of our food now, like the soil that the fruit and vegetables is grown in, is not as good quality as it was,
Mhm.
20, 30 years ago. So there are deficiencies we're seeing in the food. So ones that I recommend to my clients, so the fundamental ones, and again, I'm not a nutritionist, but it's just through my own experience and what works for me, what I recommend to my clients. So vitamin D is a big one. Vitamin D, especially being in Canada, we have sun today, which is amazing, but we don't get a lot of sunlight. So I always recommend clients take vitamin D in the morning. It also helps with your mood and your energy, right? Good for strong bones too. So that's a good one. Fish oil is also an incredible supplement as well for the omega-3s, brain health. It also helps reduce inflammation. A lot of us have a lot of inflammation in our bodies that usually comes from the gut.
Mhm.
Um, what's another one? Oh, magnesium. I
Mhm.
recommend a really good quality magnesium to all my clients. It helps you sleep better. It's like a natural muscle relaxer. It also helps improve the bowels, and it also helps balance blood sugar, which is a big thing for women, especially as we enter peri and menopause. So
I've had
that,
that recommended to me for migraine headaches.
oh yeah, probably because it helps to relax
Yeah.
the muscles. Yeah, and we're very deficient in magnesium as well, all of
Hmm.
us. So taking a substantial amount of magnesium, I like to recommend it before bed because it does make you
Hmm.
sleepy. Zinc's another good one, and there's tests you can do to, and again, before you go and take all these, it's a great idea to go get your levels tested by your doctor. Zinc's another good one for immune function, metabolism as well. And then multivitamins are, a dime a dozen. You have to make sure you get a good quality multivitamin, but taking a really good quality multivitamin is also good, just kind of like cover all your bases. So those are the ones I would recommend, but it's not like, oh, if you don't take them, you're not going to reach your goals, but it's just another thing to help optimize your health, bring your, increase some of the deficiencies most people have. Yeah, it's like health insurance, right?
Hmm.
Like, yeah. So those ones I recommend. There's so many others. There's like liver support. There's blood sugar balancing ones. There's
So for
mood
those,
boosting.
it's when you get tested, and
Yeah.
maybe there's some things, because I think a lot of us just assume, or maybe we see, okay, like I think there are probably a lot of deficiencies that we have just based on how we eat. And like you said, the soil, like
Mhm.
our food in general is just different.
Yeah.
And so I think it's interesting to talk to your doctor about, what you might actually be deficient in, because there could be some
Yeah.
supplements that could help you. But I feel like some of these, some of the marketing
Yeah.
could be just
It's gonna change your life. You're gonna
yeah,
lose 10 pounds in
yeah.
1 month's supply. Yeah, no, it's
Mhm.
some people swear by it, and I'm supportive of people that I think it's great that some people have businesses
Mhm.
in these type of companies, but you gotta pay attention. Like it needs like don't be buying your supplements to from I don't know. Do you guys have Costco over there?
You do, yeah.
Costco. So yeah, they're not the greatest. So you
Mhm.
want to make sure they're good quality and look at the ingredients. Like you want to make sure it's just the mineral. Like you want
Mhm.
just magnesium, right? So you got to read labels and make sure they're reputable brands because sometimes you just put a bunch of stuff in there that's definitely not helping. Yeah, it's got to be good quality supplements for sure.
So tell me, Leslie, when you're, with your business now, you've been in business for a number of years.
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned being, for over almost 13 years self-employed. So how has your business changed? Because I know that
Mm,
health and fitness and mental health all changed quite a bit over the past few
yeah.
years during COVID. What were some of the things that you, as a business owner, either had to adapt to or change?
Mm,
Or was this a good time for your business because people
yeah.
were home looking at themselves on Zoom and had a little bit more free time than normal?
Yeah, oh my gosh, COVID, what a panic we all went through. And in Ontario specifically, we were shut down on and off for like 2 years. So we had like shutdowns 9 times. And I own a personal training studio, so that had
Hmm.
quite an impact. But what was incredible, the timing was kind of awesome because 2 years before that, I had just created my own online business. So a lot of people were just like panicking and starting these online businesses
Hmm.
in the moment. So starting to work with people. So if they couldn't come into the studio, I had the capacity to work with them online. So creating a membership site, getting a handle on doing like group coaching calls and using different apps for like group support and accountability. So that was really helpful. So I could help more people and I could help them when the gyms were closed. So adapting to not just training people in person, but also coaching them on like the nutrition, the mindset, the lifestyle, creating a community without ever having to leave your house. So that's something that has totally added to the impact I can have, but also my income is having, sure, I have the personal training studio, but I also have the online capacity and business as well. So that was a huge thing that shifted for me during COVID and since having kids. I used to work as a personal trainer from 6 in the morning till 8 at night. Okay.
Yeah.
I did that for years, probably like 9 years. That was my schedule. And then I had kids. I'm like, I can't, what is it? And my husband's a coach, so he's also in the evening.
Mhm.
So I had a babysitter for the first 2 years of my son's life so I could work in the evening. I'm like, this is not the type of life I want to have. So when I had my second child, that is what really forced me to fine tune my schedule. So now I see clients in person from 6 to 1. And I actually like Wednesdays is my day where I do admin and
Mhm.
podcasts and content creation and online coaching. So now I've really fine-tuned my schedule so I'm not burning out, and I have other trainers now supporting me. So I have a trainer working in the evening and then another trainer working alongside me in the studio. So that's how it's adapted. I was burned out. I'm like, okay, if I want to be a good mom and see my kids, I need to find a better way. So that's
Mhm.
where the online piece helped me to help more people without trading time for money, right?
Right.
So that's what shifted is doing like a hybrid online and
Yeah.
in-person coaching.
No, and
Yeah.
so you can help more people in different locations
Yeah.
now, right? I mean,
Yes.
before,
You're
personal
right.
training is very much like, even before, people would have to go see a financial planner in their
Yes.
neighborhood or
Yes.
something, and now that's not the case. They can work with whoever is the best fit for them, and it's the same with training and coaching.
Yeah.
So that is something that I think is nice. Obviously, for some people though, like working with a trainer in person, who is that the best fit for, would you say?
Oh my God, everybody. I just find it so much more powerful and impactful to have your hands on somebody
Yeah.
and like you have that in-person interaction and they get out of their home. Like a lot of women I work with their moms like this is the only thing I do for myself all
Yeah.
week, right?
Mhm.
So I really think it's good for anyone. My in-person clients love the in-person training and people that don't live here, don't live close to the studio, wish they could, but I really think it's great for
Yeah.
anybody, beginners, people that are advanced and want to become more advanced, or they want to be pushed a bit more, or they just,
Mhm.
again, like they just want to get out of the house and like chat with someone.
Yeah, no, I think that's interesting you mentioned getting pushed a little bit more, because even like we have all of the weights and we have certain things at home, but I feel like, again, we do the same things over and over again, repeatedly.
Yeah.
And so sometimes
Comfortable.
you're like, what could I be doing that's different? Or what
Yeah.
don't I know? And
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest questions that I get from people is like, I
Mm.
just don't know what I don't know
Oh, yeah.
available to me. And so that's
Yeah.
why I think you're right about even if you just spent the money to meet with a trainer a couple of times or a couple of sessions, could
Yeah.
kickstart
Yes.
you onto a different maybe a different plan, something that's a better fit for you, something that actually works, because we keep doing the same things over and over again and we get the same results.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But we might be older.
Okay.
And why did
Yes.
this not work? Because it worked when I was in my 20s and it doesn't anymore. So
No, yeah. No, it definitely
that's where I
doesn't.
think, coaches can be so helpful because they're not us.
Yes. Yeah, yes. That's like outside eyes, right? And I like the combination actually of doing like in-person training and then supporting people outside, like making sure, okay, did you, get your own workout in? How's your meal prep going? How's the sleep? So like I still check in with my clients every week, whether they're in person or online, to make sure they're doing, following through on all their other non-negotiables and just checking to see how they're doing. And some weeks they're not great. I'll adjust the workout. Some weeks like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
So I like a hybrid. That's really my favorite way of working with people. So they come in once every 2 weeks. And then we check in virtually in between those sessions. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that sounds great. So how can people learn more about you or find you if they want to follow you? You mentioned you shared some reels on Instagram. I think
Yeah.
this might be something. There's a lot of people. I read another survey that said 86%. This is a Global Health and Fitness Association survey that said 86% of consumers in over 50 countries are motivated to do
Oh.
more about their physical health and well-being today than they have in the past.
Oh,
So
wow. I
this
love that
is
stat.
on people's mind.
Where are all those people? Yeah,
If
that's
they're
awesome.
thinking about it, they're home,
Yeah.
or they're at work, and they're thinking about it. Maybe they're not doing it. So how can
Yeah.
they, even if the first step is to just find somebody that
Yes.
you like to follow and that
Yes.
you're interested in? So tell people how they can find you.
Sure. Okay, well, come find me on Instagram. I am on there a lot. I'm a little bit of an obsessed with Instagram oversharer, but it's mostly for me. I want to provide value. I entertain you a little bit too. So Instagram at Get Fit with Less. And my website, I've got a couple. So Get Fit with Less is the website for my online group coaching program. And primepersonaltraining.ca is for the physical location. So yeah, Instagram's the best place. You can also email me at getfitwithless@gmail.com. But yeah, this is
Um,
thanks for asking.
Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about this with me. And if you're looking to see if you have any room in your budget to hire a trainer or join a program, or maybe just change the way your food budget looks, head over to mistylynch.com. I'd love to schedule some time to talk with you about these things. And if you'd like to catch up on other episodes of the podcast, you can find them all there as well. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk again next week. Don't forget to share with friends and family, and together let's demystify the world of money. Knowledge is the key to financial empowerment.